Round 13. It was a fun week, a wild one, a bit different to what we normally expect, given it was the first week we've had just the 13 players for a week where you have only 3 teams on the bye and a lot of Origin guys backing up. So what you can see there on my bench in the interchange and emergency was a lot of actual people playing. Now, I only ended up looping in one spot. I could have looped in the half position, and that's what I ended up doing with Fletcher Sharp. I popped him in the emergencies, and I did see a lot of people start him, so I was very glad in the end that it wasn't like a awkward middling score. Like, we either want him to score really low or really good, and therefore, like a 35 is a bit annoying. It doesn't really help me too much. Like, it's still an okay score, whereas 22, it really helps me not playing him, and we pretty well know that Saval is going to go above that number, and that's what happened with me. So that was my loop as to why Fletcher Sharp was in emergency 5, and guys, in this week 13, 16, 19, it doesn't actually matter where they are in your interchange or emergency, whereas this week we do go back to normal programming where you can loop with your interchange as well as looping with the starters. So you'll see there around 12, 13, 15, 16, 18, 19, you're looping with your starting player only. So I would have moved Nicho Hynes on the bye into the half position if I wanted to take Fletcher Sharp's score. Now, in the centres this week, I couldn't actually do a real loop given I had Katonga and Lucas as my only centres that were available this week. Yes, I could have done Tamale, but I didn't have any actual wing fullback cover for that. So I just wanted to lock and load him in the wing fullback slot. And, Farnworth, I couldn't do anything in that section. I suppose the only thing that could have happened there was that Lucas I could have looped in that centre spot and then actually moved Tamale up and then traded a wing fullback in. So these are little things you can do as well. I just want to start the video with that because looping is still a big question each and every week from a lot of you guys. And hopefully this is the way to help. Now, the loop I did in the first game was with Toby Couchman. Now, with Nafahu White, I could have looped mid or edge, given he played the final game, or his team played the final game of the round. In that scenario, I decided that, Couchman was, 69 was great, and I wanted that in my side. And I looked at the potential players that I could have played straight up, and it was, Siwa Wong, Hosking, Tapane, and Haas. And out of that 4, which 2 would you play? I think it's pretty obvious that Tapane and Haas would be the 2 guys that you'd play. And now Payne actually played almost 60 minutes and unfortunately didn't score very well. So that was the unluckiness in that one. But Wong had his, one of his biggest games of the year and made 60 tackles, which is crazy given how many tackles he's been making. And then Hosking coming off the, knowing that he was going to be a little bit lower minutes, it was pretty easy to not play him. And unfortunately, not playing as well as we would have hoped, especially, coming into that first game back. On the edge, he picked up that 53, but, and did pick up the try, I think, in that one. Since then, no attacking stats and still getting plenty of running of the footy, but tackle numbers have been low and he's actually missing a heap as well. So those 2 guys were the correct, technically, plays to leave out. But unfortunately, left a few points there on the table with Siwa Wong compared to Tapane or Haas, but we couldn't expect that. So Couchman comes straight into edge in my team. And now with that, guys, you do have to make sure that your edge player that you're taking out, so in this case Wong and Hosking, got moved to 6 and 7 with Couchman staying in number 3. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't take Tavanga's score of 51 either because, locking in Nafahu White as the edge, he was my only guy that I could do some looping with. So that was that whole situation there. Now, the rest of this video, we're going to go through my squad, how I went, my potential thoughts going forward, and a little bit around how everyone else went, the top rankings, where we're at team value wise, and who we can chase, and to shout out people in the private crew that are doing great work. So Aaron Clark absolutely flying, almost up at 800k. How exciting is that? What a buy he's been since we grabbed him. And for anyone who bought him at, when he picked up that 80, you've got over 200k in gains, and it's been spectacular. Tapane's minutes were a big worry in this game, and hopefully, him and Horsburgh, they did end up having much lower minutes. And this was a game that, for the first time in a while, they took their middles off very early. You saw Horsburgh and you get a decent little amount of a game time to start. Morgan Smithies had a lower minutes to start. Same with Tarpany, just 23 minutes there. So that was a frustrating one. He did come back on and played another 20. So he played like 43 in total, which is pretty gross. And thankfully was able to jump on that grubber try, pick up a 50, and hopefully is okay from here. Thankfully, he ended up at the 50, and it wasn't like what could have been near a 40 mark in those types of minutes. So that was good. Payne Haas is going to be the interesting one in my side now. With Cleary picking up the 73 and continuing to head in the right direction, Payne Haas now has a very high break even, and we'll have to see what we can do with the side and who we do want to get in. But the worry here is, can I actually get to the guys I want without selling Payne Haas? His break even might allow us to get to a position where we can move him on, knowing that he'll likely not back up probably one of the games, whether it's 16 coming from Perth, which seems like a lot of the Origin guys backed up in this one, maybe with the thought in mind that they don't back up in round 16. And then we've got 19 as well backing up, but then they miss round 20. So all the same reasons that we were thinking about selling him last week in round, or in round 12 and then in round 13 as well, have come to fruition, and they're still there. So now we've just added a higher break even to our targets. And the big worry here with selling him is actually just this week, to be honest, in round 14 coming up, with his chances of doing really, really well. Are pretty high. We know the types of scores that he can provide, but his lowest score of the year, which was pretty rough there, when there are a decent amount of people that have sold. Terrell May captain was awesome. Colin was my one trade-in of the week. I brought in Colin selling Riley Smith. So overall, I suppose we could have sold someone like Hosking and kept Riley and got that extra cash gains, which was a bit tough. I think it was $4.99 coming into this week, added 32k with another really good score. So that part was frustrating, and we didn't have any gains from Hosking there. We're basically losing money at the moment with the 37 and the 42. So that was probably the only other option in hindsight. Katonga, I needed a centre, so that was going to be a no this week. We weren't even thinking about him, but now we are, definitely. Iongi wanted to play him in wing fullback, so that's where Riley was the one. He's kind of done as being needed in my side, so that's why he got moved on there. Now, moving along, Colin he was the one trade-in, went from 78 up to 85, so happy days there, and massive cash gains, like near 60k. Was awesome. Now that we've got to be on Origin watch for him, and a big shout out to Mitch Barnett. Unfortunately, has been confirmed. He's done his ACL, so every time you see something like that, especially the ACLs or Achilles, these type of ones that are just such a tough, long process, my heart goes out to those guys and Barnett to be push his way into being pretty well consistent now in that Origin side. It's really tough to see. So we'll see who does actually come into that squad now. I'd say he probably enters that squad, but does he get released for round 15? That's going to be the question with him. Now with Colo, with playing 80 minutes is absolutely wild, and that's why he needs to be in your side. So I still think you go for it, and Stefano was going to play that first Origin if things worked out with injuries to Payne Haas or whoever couldn't be fit and be ready. So you'd imagine Stefano comes into that side now. I don't personally agree with it, but that's where you'd hope. Now for the half slot, Savala, 466k in my side now. There's a bit more interest in him as potentially being a sell, especially now we've got some information on Sam Walker. He's going to be playing in New South Wales Cup this week. So that's exciting news for Sam. It's exciting for the Roosters, and unfortunately they couldn't get the win in this one here. Now Savala up another 30k this week, which is great. Really, really happy to see that. I'm just seeing some of the ups and downs here. Payne Haas down 39k there and has a really high break even again. Couchman is basically almost leveled out now after he will level out if he scores another 60 odd. Definitely. Colin Matangi up 58k. Cleary went up as well, which was good. Who are my other boys? My other bench boys. Yeah, Savala 33k on the upslope was great. Tavanga 41. Sharp lost a little bit, just puts him back into a bit more of a normal range. As to the big changes in our side, Yongi up 27, Tamale up 17, Garrick getting to a very, very cheap price there. Yeah, Savala, a player that I'm looking to potentially move on. I don't think I need to do it this week. The price as well, it's not crazy high, to help me out too much. So we'll see what happens around 15. And if he's out of the side, then sweet, we can move on, I think, in that one. Now, Katonga and Lucas, my two lowest scorers of the week, surprisingly enough. So in the centre position, that's been really, really strong, especially those two in recent history. So that was interesting to see. But, Katonga now, very, very limited need for him to be in my side. So at 542k, he's in a pretty decent spot as a potential move on target over probably this week. And we have lots of options to go to across, especially, wing fullback position. And then guys like you and Aitken, who are going to be in my plans there for round 15, needing another edge for that slot. And then Lucas, hopefully he's all good, and we just see a bounce back from him. Not too much on that one. We need him for round 15. I'm excited for that week. It's going to separate the boys from the men, as they say. Wing fullback, Tamale 62 for him. What an absolute jet. And I'm so proud of this back three. Garrick, a little bit disappointing, but thankfully got the extra 3 points today. And 44 is pretty solid. Yeah, for his price point, that's slightly above, I think. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 points above where he's actually priced at now. So no problems with that. It's only when they go below where they're priced at, which when it gets annoying. Yongi with that lovely try saver late, but just putting in good work and back-to-back good scores, he'll have another low break even, and he can easily stay in my side. And then Tamale, just the gift that keeps on giving. So happy that I held him. I think it was, when I was in Europe there, he could have been the guy to be sold, and I was like, I think it was following his 18 or 20. Him and Yongi went shocker back-to-back against each other, I think. So that was tough, and then he's been pretty solid from there. So very happy with that. Those offload try assists when he's going out are just so fun to watch. I love when he's able to do that kind of stuff. So he's going to stay in the side now. And I was mentioning last week that round 18, he is going to be a position, wing fullback will be a position, or centre that I need. And he can cover either one, which is absolutely awesome. Garrick, he'll come good. I think he's defending really well. A little bit more opportunity in tack on the weekend, and they were better. So it's great to see. We need Manly to be going decent for him to continue doing well. And so we get Farnworth back, we get Hines back, which is awesome. Fletcher Sharp should go back to 6 and well, especially for that week, this week coming, and then we'll move back to fullback when Ponga likely is the origin fullback. Wong, miss out this week, but happy to have him back soon. Hosking's going to be an interesting one, and then King Tonga at the moment heading into round 14. He's my worst potential scorer. And this is before trades, guys. This is my setup currently. Lucas, I don't think you're going to be my vice this week after seeing what we saw last week. Storm, Cowboys. Yeah, I don't have many players early, hey. Maybe it's Couchman. You can have the vice for now, big fella. So, squad there, we just have Nafahu, White, Savala, and Wong out of the side right now. And I think we're going to leave it that way. There's probably no reason, especially with Colin Matangi, a chance to go into Origin. Chance of injuries and stuff like that, and thankfully only using the one trade. I haven't gone crazy low, but it could have been like a 10 or a 9 left, but I'm sitting at 11. For those on podcasts, I've absolutely cooked you here. I scored 795, for those that couldn't see. Sorry about that. And into 1101. So our best rank of the season, which is exciting. I was very much hoping, I think in mid-game, I got to about 1050, so 1,050 there, but then Teddy ended up at 69, and that hurts a little bit. So, when my boys Savala were doing well early, and Tamale there, we put ourselves in a good position before Teddy dominated, who is well owned there. So 795, 1101, 11 trades remaining, and 176 in the bank right now after going Riley Smith up to Kolomatangi and spending, 170k, whatever it was. Yeah, 160 odd thousand. So heading into this week, the only guys that we are kind of worried about, yes, Yongi is against the Dogs. So that's going to be a harder one. Who's interested in Galvin, by the way, now that he goes to the Dogs? People are mentioning Burton, but Galvin at 590 odd thousand is a pretty interesting one too. So for me there, with White, Savala and Wong out, King Tonga would be my lowest other scorer. So 17 scorers includes, Katonga. We got, Sharp, Hosking, Tavanga on the bench there in this one. So looking to improve down in wing fullback eventually. It's going to be needed, heading into round 15 For wing fullbacks, I do have Garrick and I have Fletcher Sharp right now. So that is ideal-ish, but we do need to make some moves down in that position. Now, how we get there is going to be the question. You know, if we sell someone like Payne Haas, then we can get to Campbell really easily. Drinkwater's at a decent price there at $6.57. I might be able to do some maneuvering with, you know, Hoskins and these types of guys to get to a Drinkwater. It also doesn't have to happen this week, especially with Drinky up against the Storm. But that price is really, really appetizing, definitely. These kind of guys down here, especially, you know, Tamale's up against the South, so that's, you know, an okay match up there. Iongi, can we trust him one more week against the Dogs? We don't have to deal with Tedesco playing, so that's a win. Nwangi Tawaze didn't have as good of a game, but someone like Campbell does feel pretty important to the side. Someone like Aiken I really like as well, who, as I said, helps me in my quest to get a good side come round 15, and I am short a player there. So Aiken up at 650 with that 56 that he ended up with. I just love watching him play. He's so consistent and he's so great for any one side. So him at 650 is going to be interesting how we actually get there. And as I said, Payne Haas is the easy ticket. And if I was to sell Payne, my secondary trade, I suppose it could be Savala if we wanted to at 466 if we're selling Haas. If we're going 3 trades, really I think I want Tedesco come round 15. So probably worth just waiting and trying to potentially do 2 trades. We'll have to see how that one plays out. I mean, again, we could just roll with the wing fullbacks now. Yes, we had Teddy get 69, we had Drinkwater get 62, and Jaden Campbell go 64 there. And, you know, Tamale was the only one that really matched that. But we also have money well spent in other areas. You know, Payne Haas was the one that was a little bit annoying at his price, but having Couchman, buying Kolomatangi, and, you know, having May as captain, these types of guys, having Cleary still, we've got money in those other positions. So that's why it's a little bit weaker down here. So the question's going to be, do we do a couple of trades just to upgrade here? Do we need to trade as much this week, or just go the one and do one upgrade and, you know, could get to... Yeah, I suppose that's a hard thing, trying to get to someone like Campbell. With the one trade, could be tough at 176k. He feels like he's more of, you know, one of the more important bring-ins, but it's very hard to do in that single trade. He helps him half, he helps him win fullback for round 15, which is a goal that I have there, is to improve one of those positions. And then, you know, Fletcher Sharp could move between half and wing fullback there. So there aren't many guys in my side that could go straight to Jaden Campbell there. Even Nafahu White, I think that means I'm short by $1,000, to be honest with you there. Nafahu White, 176k. Yeah, short by $1,000 from NAF. But I think, yeah, it probably just helps as a real easy guy to hold there. Someone like Isaiah Katoa I think is really interesting this week as well. He would fit from that one. But if I'm looking at someone like Hosking, if I wanted to sell him, then 176 gets me up to 759, which doesn't include Katoa by $3,000. And then in that wing fullback position, it helps for someone like Teddy, but he doesn't play this week, so it'll be the following. So some interesting things there. It hasn't, you know, worked out perfectly, I suppose, the way that it's ended up with that bit of cash in the bank, which is helpful. But that's where I keep going back to Payne Haas as a guy that could be interesting to move on from. Let's have a quick look at the rankings up top, and what we do have to shout out is the boys up top, Jakey V and Andrew sitting in 3rd and 5th from the private group. Very, very excited by that. Squad values, guys, 14.188 million for myself, 14.307 for Thames in first place. And what we actually were able to do myself, not that I'm gunning for first, so as much as I would love it, but I managed to gain back 25 points. And what that meant with Thames getting 770, what that meant was Jakey V, 833, was able to claw back 63 points, which was massive. And then Andrew in 5th with 816, so managed to claw back 46. Really, really good outings for those two. August managed to hold on to 2nd place with 802, so really solid score there. And you saw there with my 795, I was 1333, so managed to make 230 spots with a score just under 800. So squad values, as I said, they're all sitting sort of in that low 14s up to the mid 14s now. 14.656 for Sam there in 6th place, doing a really good job. August at 14.47. So yeah, you can see then my 14.188 is better or the same as a couple of people here in the 9th, 10th, and 11th spot. And then we are, more sticking between 14.2 and 14.6. So if you're sitting anywhere up near 14 million, then you can match it with these guys for the remainder of the season. Where they're probably better off right now is at that slight bit of extra squad value, but also just putting together maybe a slightly stronger team than you right now. But if you have trades available, you can build to that, I think, with a similar squad value. If you get this right over this next period of time, then you can outscore these types of teams and make your way up the ranks, which is, if you can mix it with the top 100 in terms of, scores each week, you see they're scoring around that 790, 808, 818, 796, all very similar. Like, it's hard to sort of lose too much, I think, up the top here. But it's just if you're the teams underneath, 750 here was kind of one of the tougher ones you'll see. And these kind of guys here, you guys in the lower ranks, which I'm talking to majority of us that are sort of 1,000 and higher, with the similar team values, what I say, and you can claw your way back up the leaderboard, which is awesome. Now, heading into my league, so I've had a couple of close ones. Unlucky to Stephen, beat him by 2 points in the JBFA private one there. I got a good win in the Gargarov. I'm sitting in 6 now. It's still strong comp, but we're flying. And then, unfortunately, we lost the Content League. So, Nath, 806, beat me by 11 in that one. Let's just have a quick check of the overall league, the JBFA overall. So, August still leading that one with Jake and Andrew. So, August in with a chance to win that private group. It's because they sponsorship, but private group cash to get in. Private group entry. And shout out to Jeremy in there in 27th. With a 793, pretty solid. And Brody's absolutely crushing. I think he's been way far out and then has moved into 70 odd last week into 42 with an 817. And I think we got 14 now out of the near 400 entrants in, was it 13? He got pushed back. There you go. Yeah, 13 in the top 100, which is pretty crazy that are in this group with 170,000 entrants. We've got 13 of the top 100, which is absolutely incredible. So shout out to everyone out there. I'm improving. I'm 65th in that crew. So there you go. Now, Battle of Podcasts. I moved up 2 spots. So happy days with that. Just a small improvement on the guys behind me there. So Scoop lost a little bit, unfortunately, with a 743. And Longy in there with 783 to push just ahead of him, which is good. And something I haven't looked at too much here is team value across the podcasters crew. So we have Geordie in there at 12th overall. We have Nick with a great 831, pushed him into 90th. Austin with not as good of a week at 760. And you can see here, following that, there was only Mitchy Boy, who you'll see tomorrow morning, picked up an 813, so a great score from him. Oh, there you go, a couple of good ones down here. And actually, I have to shout out Marky Jessup. He crushed, and shout out to him for the posts where he was doing all of his looping, and it worked pretty much exactly as it planned, I think, apart from Tamale. I was having a bit of a look there. I think he just missed out on that score because the other guys did too well, like in Campbell and Metcalf there. So shout out to that one. And even Jackson Purdue, who scored really well. So an 881 pushed him well up the rankings after being back there closer to the 10K mark. So there you go. And you did hear from Nikki as well this morning and last night. So make sure you do jump over and check out that video. As I said, I was absent from that one, and my little update came this morning. So hopefully you enjoyed that one there. So in terms of team values, we've got 14.2, 14.3, 13.9, 13.9 again, 14.2. Why does mine say 14.012? It doesn't say cash in the bank, does it? Nah, that doesn't really help us then. Don't know why it doesn't on the other one, but yeah, I'm with the 176. Yeah, it hasn't added that in. So that's annoying, but we've got some stiff competition and very, very close in this section here. The 11.9s, that goes all the way down to 2,300 there with Rob. And then very, very close all the way up to Austin there in 654. So only 59 points behind Austin now. And that's, 350 ranks basically into 654. So I'm so keen to get into the triple digit club. It's been a while, all the way from the second half of last year is where we got into that and stayed there. So super excited to see how all of this plays out. And with 11 trades, we're sitting closer to average now after only using the one this week, which is cool. So I'm glad that I ended up doing that. It wouldn't have really improved too much. I think I was going to go Tamale to JC and then decided to hold off on that one with the fact that I wanted to hold Tamale for round 18 as well, and he's doing well. And yeah, JC was back at fullback, so he absolutely did everything for that Storm side. So I think we'll leave it there, guys. A bit of my strategy, what I'm kind of thinking how to do it, is going to be worked out over the week, and it's never, very rarely I should say, is it straightforward. Sometimes you've got easy trades, a lot of times you don't. So there you go. We're going to leave that one there. Thanks so much for tuning in for this one. I'll get the Supercoach video out tomorrow morning as well, sort of before we get into team lists there, which seems to be getting a few more views earlier on the week. So we'll get that out. Had a busy day as well today with getting into work. So there you go. We'll leave it there. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy all the videos to come. Mitch and, at least Mitch, maybe with Maddie as well, will come out tomorrow morning. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.